Greetings, magical people. It's Afira here, the Writing Witch, and today's video is a vlog of February's Eve / Imbolc. I like to celebrate all of the sabbats for the whole season, but I especially like to do some rituals on the 3 or so days surrounding the date. Personally, as a non-theistic pagan who isn't particularly on the Celtic Wiccan type path, I actually tend to think of the cross quarters as the end of the previous month and then the first of the new month, as opposed to the second of the month like most people celebrate Imbolc on. So I started on January 31st, and me and my partner just decided to make a lovely bath salt. In particular, we made 2 different bath salts. He made one for himself with his specific intentions, and I made one for my intentions. I decided to do a success spell. I have some big dreams for myself right now, and I decided to give myself a little extra oomph to draw in those intentions in my bath water. I selected some herbs, including some of my evergreen boughs from the winter solstice, and I included some essential oils for some extra kick. As with all things in my practice, I simply intuitively selected things that have connotations of the energies that I wanted to evoke in my personal experience. Some of my herbal traditions include ideas that I've gathered from years of being around other witches and reading witchy books and watching witchy YouTube videos. And other things are just my own personal connotations of what I think of when I think of certain herbs. That's just me and my eclectic witchy ways. I thought the February's Eve season would be the perfect time to create a magical bath salt because traditionally this time of year is associated with cleansing and purification. I'm a big bath witch, especially in the winter, so during this season, bath rituals definitely are my favorite form of magic. It's also traditional this time of year to do some kind of nature offering during this really harsh season. I decided to dig up this handmade bird feeder that I created. This creation was a little bit of a spell in and of itself. As you know, I am in the process of manifesting my dream home, and so crafting this miniature Victorian mansion for the birds and using it to give nature offerings to the wildlife around me is super meaningful for me. One of my biggest desires for my dream home is to live in a space where I'm surrounded by nature and animals. And the sad truth is that when I created this bird feeder last year, I discovered to my dismay that I couldn't really keep it on my porch during the spring, summer, and fall because the birds would swarm and they would poop everywhere, and the downstairs neighbors were probably really not thrilled about it. So for me, being able to connect with nature in the ways that I want to without it butting heads with the human civilization is something that I'm really calling in for my dream home. And so just for a while, since nobody is hanging out on their porch right now, I thought I would bring out my bird feeder just to see if any hungry winter birds might happen upon it. I like to believe that by making life a little bit easier for other creatures, that karma will be returned to me and to my loved ones and all of the creatures on this beautiful planet. Even in this industrial environment that I live in, where oftentimes it's impossible to even hear birds and animals over the sound of all of the traffic and human hustle and bustle, birds have become some of my favorite spirit animals. Because even in this environment, they're always flying around, landing in trees, and doing what they do in spite of all of the busyness going on below them. Normally, I'm not super obsessed with the whole bread and milk theme of Imbolc, mainly because when I first came upon my witchy path and discovered the Wheel of the Year, I was actually vegan, and at the time, all that I could find online about this celebration was to eat milk. I kind of strayed from those traditions and found my own ways of celebrating this halfway mark between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. But this year, I happened to have some of my mom's famous pound cake. For this little breakfast ritual, I decided to soak my cake in almond milk. It's traditional to place a candle either in the barren ground outside or in the snow, just as a reminder that the inner life force of nature is still glowing within, and so too is our inner light still glowing even during this cold, dark time of the year. And even though I'm in an apartment right now and it wasn't possible for me to have a big outdoor fire with all of my winter solstice garlands, I decided to just burn a little sprig of some of the evergreens that I had brought in for the winter solstice as a nod to the tradition of using those garlands as a sort of smudging wand to purify and bless the home at the end of the winter solstice season. That morning, I caught a YouTube video by Ella Harrison who was showing us how to make a protection charm using red winter berries. And it reminded me that I actually have a tree around the corner from my house in a parking lot that is covered in little red berries. I thought it would be fun to take a little field trip over there to harvest some of them for my altar and possibly to later on turn into a charm. And when I got there, I was delighted to see not only that the berries were still in full bloom, but that tons of little rabbits had been hopping around below the tree and eating these red berries. It made me happy to see that nature is still providing for its creatures even during this cold, dark time of the year. On the way home, I came upon this lovely pine forest. And by pine forest, I mean some pine trees in a parking lot. But I absolutely love to find beautiful little patches of nature, even in this not so naturey environment. And as I was rounding the corner, I manifested this weird 1980s sun poster. Is almost like a giant sun card from the tarot. It's just a reminder that everything is okay, you're on the right track, and good things are coming your way. And when I got home, I decided to update my altar, which was very easy because all I really had to do was remove the 2 poinsettias. As you know, if you caught my winter solstice videos, I decided to decorate for the entire winter using these neutral whites, blues, and golds instead of Christmassy colors, which is perfect for the February's Eve season. I know a lot of pagans like to start decorating for spring at this time, but I don't because you've seen what it looks like outside here. This time of year, there is no way you would ever see a spring flower growing. So this is just an opportunity for me to experience the pureness of winter before it does finally shift to spring. While I was at the altar, I decided to do a little bit of magic. One of my traditions is to always collect snow water at February's Eve and save it to use in rituals. I also happen to collect storm water in the summer, so this year I thought it might be fun to create a full circle spell where I combine the storm water from summer with the February's Eve snow, and you'll get to see what I do with it at the end of this video. I've also recently created a success spell for the new year in the form of an oil. If you'd like to see how I made this oil, just please leave me a comment. It will be sitting on my altar from new moon to new moon. It was created on this Aquarius new moon that was at the same time as Imbolc, and every day until the next new moon, I will be writing my goal on a bay leaf, burning it as an offering, and then adding the ashes into the oil as it continues to charge up. And then it was time for a celebratory meal. So as I mentioned, I'm not vegan anymore, I'm just vegetarian now, so I decided to actually go with the traditional theme of some kind of dairy and bread for dinner. I found this amazing recipe for Imbolc tarts from Moody Moons on Pinterest. And of course, I put my own spin on it because that's what we do here. It just consists of some vegan sausages, some veggies, some random creams and cheeses that were approaching their due date in my fridge that I wanted to use up, a couple of eggs, and some spices. And as with all of my kitchen witchy recipes, I simply thought positive thoughts and repeated my mantras for the new year as I was cooking, and allowed that to be a little spell in and of itself. What's lovely about this recipe is that it can be enjoyed for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So I ended up having 2 of these for dinner that night, and then I had another one for breakfast the next day. I love recipes like that because living alone, I don't really need to make a massive amount of something just for one night's dinner. And so I definitely live off of leftovers a lot, which really comes in handy during the week when I'm busy being magical, making art for my shop, and making these lovely YouTube videos for you guys. And by the way, if you're enjoying these videos, it does take a lot of time, energy, and creativity to put these together for you guys. So it would be so helpful if you would go over to my Patreon and become a member, even if just for 1 month, to check out some of the beautiful printables and Book of Shadows bits and bobs that I have for you guys over there. It supports me so much and allows me to have the energy to keep putting this magic out there for you guys. And to finish off my February's Eve celebration, it was time to have a candlelit bath. But before I could do that, I had to make a magic candle. This is a candle that I just got from my local grocery store, and I soaked the jar in water overnight to make it easy to remove the label, so now it is just an unmarked white candle, which is traditional for the season. Just like any jar candle spell, I carved a pentacle into it and then stabbed holes at the points. Then I decided to take some of my money oil, even though it's not fully done brewing yet. I think it still already has plenty of magic in it. And I decided to add that into my candle. Whoops, some of my allspice and coffee beans came out into there, and I just grabbed them and put them back in the jar because part of the spell was to have 8 of each of those. And then I simply roll the candle around in a clockwise motion to represent the moving forward of this intention as the oil seeps down into the holes. Now it's time to take all of my magical ingredients and move into the magical room we call the bathroom. I just did an epic cleaning and scrubbing of my tub, and frankly, I did not want to get herbs everywhere, so today I decided to put it into a sachet. What I will be adding directly to my bath water is this magical potion that consists of a little bit of my success oil that I made, along with that water, if you remember from earlier, which was a mixture of February's Eve snow and summer storm water to represent completion and a full circle moment. I held the cup in my hands and repeated my intentions to myself as I charged the water with that intention, and then poured it into the bath. And now it's time for a magical soak. So how did you spend this magical Imbolc / February's Eve / Lunar New Year? Please let me know in the comments. If you would like to craft a magical ritual using a candle and bath water, I have created a YouTube video all about how to do that, and I've linked it for you right here.